of the Great Barrington Declaration. Thank you so much. You got your medical degree from Stanford. You've been with Stanford for more than 20 years. I'd hardly call you somebody on the fringe, but I heard what Dr. Collins tried to characterize what this declaration said, and it seemed to me he got it entirely wrong.
No, he straight up lied. He basically said that we wanted the virus to spread, rip through the population. And Dr. Fauci said the same thing. It was a let it rip strategy. Anyone that reads the Great Barrington Declaration, you can go look online. There's not that phrase does not appear in it because the central idea of the Great Barrington Declaration is focused protection of the vulnerable. There's a 1,000-fold difference in the risk of severe outcomes. We know the elderly and old people and certain people with chronic diseases have high risk of bad outcomes if they get infected. So the Great Barrington Declaration said, let's focus our attention on protecting those people. At the same time, the lockdowns were harming so many other people, especially kids who were locked out of school, especially poor kids. And so we argued for opening up society for the rest of us while protecting the vulnerable. What I was expecting was an honest discussion. Instead, what we got was lies from the head of the NIH. It was absolutely shocking.
Did you ever think that they would actually target you? I mean, they wanted a quote unquote devastating response and takedown of what you were advocating. And it wasn't just you. There's scientists from all over the world that were signing on to this.
Yeah, tens of thousands of scientists and doctors signed on to this. The problem here is that Dr. Collins sits on top of over $40 billion worth of money that go to other scientists to fund research. When he says he wants a devastating takedown, well, he has the resources to go find people to do that. And you can see from the strategy that they use, they essentially went to friendly press, spread their propaganda and lies about the Great Barrington Declaration in order to not engage with the ideas in it. They didn't actually take down its premises. If they thought that it was impossible to protect the vulnerable, well, they should have said that. What they actually had, the major problem was that the Great Barrington Declaration correctly pointed out the enormous collateral harms from the lockdown policies we followed. Every single person listening to this knows those harms intimately. Isolation, people lost their businesses, people lost going to the doctor for cancer screening. In poor countries, tens of millions of people are starving as a consequence of the lockdown. They didn't want to address those harms, and so instead they engaged a propaganda campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing that you had over 15,000 scientists sign on to this. And it's just shocking that they would go out and try to attack you. I think one of the fundamental problems in this whole approach from these doctors, Drs. Fauci, Dr. Collins, was they took a policy position and then tried to backfill it with the science instead of having the science out there and having that honest discussion that you talk about. But I thank you for being engaged in the discussion and not being bashful or intimidated by those in political power. So, Dr. Bhattacharya, thank you for joining us tonight. All right, Joe Manchin